How does God's deliverance of Israel fit into the World War III timeline? I'm not sure what part of Israel's deliverance they're talking about. Are they talking about a second? Obviously, this wouldn't be a second coming deliverance.
Right. Okay, I'm just going to refer you. I'm not going to be able to read the whole thing, but Ezekiel 37 through 39 talks about the history of Israel in the last days. Chapter 37 is about Israel coming back together as one nation from all the nations of the earth, and it's as if Israel was dead and life was brought back to the nation. And then there's an attack by Gog and Magog and Persia, Ethiopia. Persia is Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, and Togarmah, the sons of Togarmah, or the house of Togarmah. That's Turkey. All these nations, Magog is most likely talking about Russia. All these nations come down and attack Israel. And God defends Israel, and these nations, their armies are destroyed on the mountains of Israel. In the King James Version, in chapter 39, verse 2, it says that God is going to leave a sixth of them. And so 5/6 of the Russian and Confederated Army is going to be destroyed on the mountains of Israel. And at the end of chapter 39, it talks about the people of Israel, because of this deliverance, are going to be begin to seek the Lord. It says, when I have brought them back from the peoples, this is verse 27 of chapter 39, when I brought them back from the peoples and gathered them out of their enemies' lands, and I am hallowed in them in the sight of many nations, talking about this battle, then they shall know that I am the Lord their God, who sent them into captivity among the nations, but also brought them back to their land and left none of them captive any longer. And I will not hide my face from them any more, for I shall have poured out my spirit on the house of Israel, says the Lord God. And so God's going to begin doing a work in national Israel at that point, and it's going to be the result of a deliverance that could only come from God in the destruction of these armies. And so I believe, because of some things in the passage, for example, they're using the weapons that are gathered for fuel in Israel for 7 years after that. Well, that ties in really well with the 7-year period that includes the Great Tribulation. And so I believe this battle takes place at the very beginning of the tribulation period, maybe just previous to the tribulation period or coincidental with the beginning. And that God uses that to start turning the people of Israel towards him. And so that would be World War III that we would be looking at, chapter 38 and 39 of Ezekiel. World War IV would be Armageddon. And so World War III is, it looks like it's limited. If it's nuclear, it's limited to certain parts of the world. It looks like a quarter of the earth is killed through this battle. And then World War IV is the final battle that takes place right before the return of Christ. So
okay. With that, if I'm sure you have been, we didn't get to talk about it before, but the IDF in Israel, and they're going through some kind of protests right now. You've got talks about 10,000 reservists basically striking, protesting. Do you think that that has anything to do? Because certainly it would seem that this puts Israel on a weaker stage. Do you see anything? I don't even know really what my question is, but
right. Is this anything that can lead to this?
Yeah.
I think there's all kinds of things that can lead to this. You know, when you look at the players involved in Ezekiel 38, they're already all lined up. And so you have alliances between Russia and Turkey and Iran specifically. They are thoroughly involved in Libya and Ethiopia right at this moment, and so I know that they're tied down in Ukraine, but when you're looking at the players, they're already there, and even Saudi Arabia and the Western nations are mentioned in verse 13, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish. Merchants of Tarshish, there's a good chance that that's talking about Western nations. And they're seen as making a diplomatic protest. And so Sheba and Dedan is Saudi Arabia, and they are not aligned with Iran. They're doing some diplomacy right now, but they don't like Iran. And so they're looking at getting nuclear weapons themselves because of the fact that Iran is going to be going nuclear here. In any case, when you look at all the things that are going on in the Middle East, if I was Iran and I thought I was ready to go, obviously you have unrest in Israel. You would take advantage of that. And so there can be anything that goes on. The last war that Israel had specifically against the Arabs in the sense that they were attacked was the Yom Kippur War. And Yom Kippur is that's their Christmas season, so to speak. It's their highest holiday. It's the Day of Atonement, and so that's when these guys all attack. So if they want to attack Israel, they're going to take any advantage that they can, and yes, this could give them an advantage at this point. As far as the Israeli politics here, this is it's leftists having a fit. They have some weird things going on with their judiciary. When I went through and checked all that out, there's some strange things that the judiciary has done over the years, and so. You got some guys in the government who don't want them to be able to do it anymore. So it's a political fight that's taking place, and so it's like in our nation. Trump gets elected in 2016, and people don't like it, and so they're all out in the streets saying that they want to blow up the White House and putting weird hats on their head and screaming and yelling.
Yeah, so, with that, you've got 20 years on me. I grew up in the 80s, but I was young and I don't remember the Cold War or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I remember Clinton going through his impeachment. But it seems as though the tension between parties, and not just in our country, but in the world, there's a divide.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly is more intense than we've ever seen.
Yeah, when you'll see you'll see video of the '60s and the riots and all that kind of stuff. That was so specific. That was so such small areas,
right.
And most people in the United States, the vast majority of people in the United States, looked at those people and basically had very low opinions of them, and it wasn't something that was going to take off. That was hippies and druggies and that kind of situation, and so you didn't have that. You didn't have that attitude. I didn't know anybody besides kids in school that thought that was cool. Mm-hmm. No adult that I ever met during that time thought that was okay. And that's not what we have now.
No.
So what we have right now is radically different than what was going on during the 60s.
And going back to that question about the Antichrist, it really does seem like there's no one that's going to bring peace between these two divides, because both parties really have an ill taste towards the other side, at least as far as what you see from a media perspective and all of that. And so it's a quite an interesting thing to consider as to how the Antichrist is going to come and bring peace, and actually how he's going to do that, especially when it says, if possible, even the elect, to deceive them.
Well, one of the things that you do have is if this battle in Ezekiel 38 and 39 takes place at the beginning of the tribulation, it says the Antichrist rises through war. Well, you have a quarter of the people on the planet gone,
Right.
killed,
Right.
you're going to have people screaming out for peace at any price.
Right.
And so any strong leader that comes along that looks like he can bring an end to the carnage is going to be somebody that people will willingly give up give their allegiance to.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're looking at what the Antichrist accomplishes, he accomplishes this coming out of a war that we would call World War III, and what he gets from that is absolute allegiance to himself, where people are giving up their sovereignty. You have nations
Right.
giving up their sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have something, you have to have a catalyst that's so huge for that to happen that, I have a hard time seeing it happen right now, except for we just did COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people just went, yes, to the government. And,
The world.
yeah.
The world.
Yeah, no matter what the government said.
The world.
And now we're finding out that most of it was nonsense and that kind of thing. And I don't know that people are learning a lesson from that. That whole COVID thing, that really shook me in the sense that we don't have people who are as individualistic as I thought we did. We have a lot of people who will follow.
Yeah.
And that's what the Antichrist needs. He needs a lot of people who will follow. And for safety's sake.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be the same thing with climate change.
Oh, yeah.
People following out of fear for that, and yeah.
Hillary
All
Clinton
sorts
just
of things.
Hillary Clinton just blamed the weather on MAGA Republicans. I thought that was hilarious. So how long were MAGA Republicans in
Yeah, right.
office? So,
Is this the heat?
yeah.
The heat.
So a total of 4 years, and this is what happened, huh? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus the fact, I could go on and on. The world was there used to be palm trees in northern Alaska. So
Yeah.
figure that into your climate change.
Bring them back. I'm sure they're wanting.